Hi, I'm Una. You're very welcome to my channel. I was watching a Jennifer McGuire video last week and she was making some window scene cards, and she inspired me to pull out some of the products I have, old products that I have in my stash, and to try to create some scenes myself. I hope you enjoy this video. First of all, to create the window frame for the first card, I used a wood grain stencil and I used walnut stain ink, distress ink. And then when I had inked up over the pattern that I had created, it was ready. And I cut out this grand Madison window that's been in my stash for ages. I wasn't fully happy with it, so I smooshed some ink and made it right. And then I cut out some fun foam to adhere to the back. But first of all, I wanted to create some window panes, and I used heat-resistant acetate. Now, it doesn't have to be heat-resistant. Any acetate will do, or packaging from your stamps. And I used some thin strips of double-sided tape to adhere that in place. I did the same with the fun foam. I used the double-sided tape. And then that was ready for the scene inside, which I created with this chair and lamp from Marianne Creatables. Now, the chair I had in my stash already, but I created this lamp. Beautiful. I chose white glitter paper for the lampshade. The design pad was just a cheap one that I bought inexpensively in my art and hobby shop. White glitter paper for the lamp and blue glitter paper for the seat of the chair. And when I was happy with the arrangement, I carefully decided where the chair was going to go. Particularly when you're using stripes, you have to be careful that they're absolutely vertical. Adhered the lamp in place, and then I was able to test my scene and adhere the window. I'm using high-tack, fast-tack glue in a Gina K bottle. When that was adhered, I was able to leave it to dry for a while and then cut off the patterned paper from behind the scene. And so I was ready to move on to the background, which I created with a Craft Sensations embossing folder, a brick wall pattern. And I used these dies from Crafter's Companion. They're alphabet dies, and I was able to write HOME, home, because I had decided at this stage to turn it into a new home card. And the So Happy For You from this Sugar Peas Designs was just the perfect sub-sentiment. I used silver embossing powder, heated it up till it was smooth and melted, and then cut it out. Then, using my guillotine, I cut some skinny strips of Desert Storm craft cardstock to embellish the window. And I felt this was a nice finishing touch. And so the card was finished, and I added some Nuvo drops and liquid pearls. I make those embellishments on plastic packaging. The second card I made with a waffle flower arch window die. Now, that you can make this so that the window opens, but for the purposes of this card, I decided to leave it closed. I did the same as I did for the first card. I used fun foam to add dimension and added some acetate for the window panes. After leaving it to dry for some time, I was able to get started on the background scene, which I did with Twisted Citron, and then took some Grassy Fields Die-Namics dies and created some grass banks. I inked these up with some distress inks. I used peeled paint, mowed lawn, and crushed olive. For the second bank, I used the same inks but more crushed olive because I wanted some variation. The stamp set I'll show you later. I got this tree from the tree trunk I got from a Magical Kingdom stamp set, and I inked it up twice. Then I decided to continue inking up the top of the card and cut some hill shapes out of this cloud scene. I marked where the hills were going to be because I needed to create some variation in the colour at the top of my card. I used distress inks to do that also: forest moss, pumice stone and iced spruce. I actually went back and added some more ink later because when this dried, the colour died back too much. So I needed some extra for variation. Just testing the scene there. Now I'm ready to create the background, which I did with some Candy Stripes background builder from my favourite things. And when you're inking up a cling stamp in this Tonic Studios platform, you reverse the lid. So I pick up the stamp and using Memento Desert Sand ink, I stamp it. Now I'm ready to assemble the scene. I applied the clouds to the top of the image and the grassy banks to the base. I put one of them at a slant just to make it look more interesting. Use double-sided tape again and some liquid glue. The stamp set is called Magical Kingdom from Hunkydory. I got the tree trunk from it, and I also took this little flower and stamped it lots of times, far more than I needed. I fussy cut the flowers and then adhered them to the card using my Marvy picker tool and the Gina K bottle. And I used a mono eraser to get rid of an ink blotch there. And then I was ready to assemble the whole scene and left it to dry. The background I popped up on the card with some foam tape. Carefully pieced it all together so that it wouldn't sag. Applied it to the front of the card carefully. I had die cut the window from it, and so I was able to insert the image. I decided to turn this into a birthday card for my sister, so I took a Dovecraft die. It wasn't too distracting. Applied that with some liquid glue and a sub-sentiment on the bottom, many happy returns. And so that card was finished. I was really pleased with the way these inside-outside scenes took shape. And so glad that I took inspiration and went looking at my old products to see what I could come up with. So that's today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it and that you'll come back to Una's Crafty Cards. If you would like and subscribe, I would be absolutely thrilled. If you want to leave a comment, please do. I would love to talk to you. Bye for now. All the best.